Mr. Chair, Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen of the House. Today is a momentous occasion, a time when we can do something to relieve pain and suffering for our most vulnerable citizens. Senior citizens, majority of whom did not expect to live as long as they have. They had Social Security, and when they got it way back when, they thought they had enough to last them through their lifetime. And what they get now is a pittance, hardly enough to get them by every day. Next, we have our children. I look at these children sitting in front of us today here. They're healthy and happy as far as I know, and we're very glad to have them here. But unfortunately, such is not the case with all children. And how can we turn our backs on them? They're helpless. And lastly, our veterans. Our veterans who have sacrificed everything. Can we really turn away from them? I think not. I've spoken to you before about what I have in common with our chief executive, and that's our childhood, which was extremely difficult. And there were health issues in my family. I had a sister who had rheumatic fever, which you do not even hear about today. But she suffered with it all her life, and it affected her heart. And my mother had to beg for help for her because there was no money. We were a broken and dysfunctional home. And finally, they had to take my sister to the hospital. She spent a good deal of her life in the hospital. And they took her to a hospital far away from where we lived, and we didn't have a car. And my mother hitchhiked, imagine, to go and see her daughter. And I remember my uncle taking us one time to see Charlotte, and she was in a second level in the hospital on an outdoor porch, and I can see her waving to us. We very seldom saw her during her early childhood, but she wouldn't have had any care at all if it wasn't for charity. This is the thing I do not understand about the chief executive, that how can you forget the agony of childhood? And I'm sorry to have to say this in front of these children, but they're very fortunate, but unfortunately, many are not. But if you experience it, how can you keep from helping everyone that you can? Because you were lucky enough eventually to get, or I was lucky enough, to get help and find my way out of that horrible situation. I have heard from the governor once. I received a handwritten letter from the governor. I wasn't the only one. Several other people received a letter at that time when he said to me, "You should be ashamed of yourself." I was utterly shocked. The governor, the chief executive of the state of Maine, would write a letter like that, not only to a citizen, but a representative of the legislature. I'm not ashamed. When I look in the mirror, I think of myself as a good person, a decent person. Here in the legislature, there are 151 of us when we're all here. And we have accomplished some great things. And we have done that in the spirit of compromise. We have to work together. We can't always have our own way. But between us, we come to some agreement that is helpful, and it makes you feel good that you could work with other people that way. But that is not in the chief executive's vocabulary or in his mind. In fact, we know right now that he intends to veto this bill should it be passed. Who in God's name knows more than 151 people that have made a common agreement? There is that old saying, you know, common sense is quite uncommon. I'm not going to belabor the things that have been already said here today. But I would like to share a recent experience. We didn't have to work last Thursday because of the storm. And there are several of us that stay over here at the Senator. And so we could sleep late that morning. And we woke up in a cozy room. And we went out into the restaurant and we had a nice breakfast. And we could look out the window and see this beautiful snow falling. I mean, it might have been a darn nuisance, but it was very pretty at the time. And it was very pleasant, very pleasurable. But I began thinking about my car, and I'm thinking, I got to get back there and begin to clean things up, and I wasn't looking forward to that. But as I walked down the hall toward my room, I went by a wall with glass windows and glass doors, and you could look out into the driveway. And what a relief. They had been there and plowed this long driveway. And there were men out there brushing off the cars and shoveling the cars out. So I knew that I would be taken care of, and I was very grateful. I saw this man approaching the door. So I opened the door, and I said to him, I just want to say thank you very much. What a relief to have you do this for us, and I'd like to show my appreciation by giving you a little something. Oh, no, he said. No, this is my job. I'm happy to do it. And we entered into a conversation, and I said, you know, when I look around and see these huge piles of snow, I think about senior citizens who are practically prisoners in their own home because they don't have the strength to get outside and shovel the snow. And they don't have the money to hire somebody to plow the driveway. And we talked further about, do you suppose they're warm enough? Do we have money to pay for fuel? Have they got enough to eat? And I said, well, you know, that's one of the reasons we're here in Augusta, to try and help these people. For gosh sakes, we're Mainers. We love our neighbors, our friends, our families. The United States of America is the first country in the world to help people all around the world. And they want to help us. How can we turn our backs on that money? Who made us God to decide on the lives of these people who are so desperately in need? You know, there's a saying now that you hear often, it's about paying it forward. One of the best movies I ever saw was Paying It Forward. But it was a message that's emblazoned on my heart, I can tell you that. And folks, I think it's time for us to pay it forward.
The chair is pleased to announce the presence of the